who on earth decides to write a lo-fi song that doesn't have any of the audio tracks or loops, but is notated strictly as piano music? Apparently me. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the story of me spending way too much time on a project that was meant to be relaxing. Can you relate? What I'm going to be sharing is a behind the scenes look at Snow Fairies Under the Moonlight. Not just the creative process, but also, and actually more importantly, what was going on and some tips that you can actually use in terms of your admin and how you structure your time and where you can get your inspiration from. So yes, I'm talking about Snow Fairies Under the Moonlight, but don't worry, you can apply things to your teaching as well. In the months leading up to composing this song, I was needing a lot more self-care than usual. My normal stuff of reading books and relaxing on the couch just wasn't quite enough. And I really needed to create the most relaxing environment at all times. This led to hours upon hours upon hours of listening to lo-fi music. And of course, after all of these many hours of listening to it, I thought, this would be a great project. This is great inspiration for a piano song. If you're not sure about lo-fi, it's a genre of music. It kind of has roots in jazz and blues music. However, when you listen to it, it doesn't really sound jazz or blues. And that's because it also has kind of a music production side of it, where there's loops and things like that. If you're not sure about it, after this video, just type in lo-fi music. There is tons on YouTube. So why lo-fi music? Why on earth would this inspire me? Well, the tempo is roughly at your resting heart rate, which means that if your heart rate is a little bit faster, and if you're like me, music can really bring your heart rate down, then it's a perfect option for this. Because it's meant to be background music, it has a lot of repetitive motives. And that could sound very boring, but there's just enough change that it's still interesting to listen to. It's all about kind of this nostalgic, relaxing mood. Again, something that I needed, and on those days when you're stressed, it might be perfect for you as well. And so I really thought, I bet this would be very relaxing to play. Turns out it was. It really is. So not just listening to it, but playing it would be a really great option as well for stress relief and just general well-being. Don't be afraid to pull inspiration from unlikely places. And again, like I said, lo-fi is based on pulling audio clips that have been created on a computer, not with real instruments, and putting them together in different ways so that it creates a song. It has not been designed necessarily for piano. However, piano was ultimately designed so that we could mimic a lot of different things, and so that's where the connection came in. The next stage of this, once I decided I'm going to do lo-fi music, is I really needed to understand the theory behind lo-fi music. This is really part of composing, that if you're going to be in a new genre, you're going to be trying this out, you really want to understand the music theory behind it, and understand all the different aspects and how they work together, because that's really what creates a genre. That's what creates a style of music. Some really good advice is to set a time limit, how much time you'll spend on research. It's very good advice. I'm honestly pretty horrible at following this advice when I get into research mode. And so, full disclosure, something I still need to work on. In total, I spent probably about, well, actually, I know, I checked my time tracking. I spent nearly 10 hours, with a good chunk of that being research, and then the other portion of it being actually composing the song. Once I started composing the song and had an idea, it came together actually fairly smoothly, but it was all the lead up to it that really took the most time. And that's honestly the way it is with most projects, is the lead up is always what takes the longest. And so because of this, it was actually much longer and much more stressful than my other composing projects that I was working on, or that I work on. However, I had a deadline. It was my studio winter recital. I knew that I didn't want to play your typical Christmas song. I wanted to do something new. And so I was composing music for my students, and then I was composing for myself. And I finished, I think, 3 days before the recital. Again, not something I would recommend. I would recommend definitely finish if you're writing something much earlier than that, but that's the way it worked out this time. And yeah, so the tip I have for you here, and this goes again beyond composing, is don't try to learn everything on a topic. You're never going to learn everything on a topic. And the reason that I'm giving you this tip is because research honestly kept me immobilized for way too long. I'm like, no, I need to know like the exact tempo range. I need to know what keys or modes it's typically written in. I need to know like accompaniment patterns and rhythm patterns that are common. And that was a lot to put in. And granted, I mean, it did help in the end and it was totally worth it. But sometimes we don't need that level of detail in order to be able to work at a project or at least get started with a project. So that's my second tip is don't try to learn everything on a topic before you start. Just learn what you need and then get going. The third part of this was really understanding what my goal was. This again relates to every project. So I've honestly fallen in love with the Snow Fairies over the sagas. They started off by accident. You know, I wrote a piece. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. I just knew I really loved the song. And that's how the Snow Fairies actually began. And so there's, at the time of recording this, three different pieces within that saga, within that collection. When I was doing this, I had this idea that I wanted it to feel lo-fi, but I wanted it to feel relaxing when I played it, but also when people listened to it. And I knew that I wanted the Snow Fairies somehow involved. But what were the Snow Fairies going to be doing while they listened to lo-fi? Now, if you have seen the lo-fi videos, like they're always, you know, lo-fi for studying, lo-fi for sleeping, lo-fi for whatever. And I thought, well, studying is just way too obvious. And do the Snow Fairies really study? I mean, maybe they do. But in my mind, the ones that were in this song were not studying. And sleeping would have just been completely boring. Then I ended up remembering many, many years ago, I had been out with friends in the evening, well, actually at night, and we'd been in a field, a farmer's field. I have no idea who this farmer was, how somebody knew them, but we were in this farmer's field, and I just remember the awe of seeing all these stars above, how bright they looked and how many more there was than when I was in the city. And I'm a city girl. So when I go out into the country or when I'm out in the mountains, it always looks really amazing to me when I see this. And the moon looked huge, right? Like it was this beautiful, beautiful moon, just kind of gentle light shining down. And I could just feel all the stress of everything melting away as I just looked at the vastness of the sky. When I was composing this, I thought, you know what? Maybe the Snow Fairies need that as well. Maybe they're having a moment in a field or maybe in the mountains where, again, they're just looking up and seeing the vastness of the night sky. And it's this special moment where maybe they've been working really hard all day and they can just let everything go and they can relax. So now as I play the song, that's actually the image I have in my mind, and it's true. I feel the stress melting away as I'm playing the song. So in terms of a tip here, have an end goal in mind when you start a project. Yes, my project took longer than I expected. Snow Fairies Under the Moonlight, like I said, took much longer than I would have expected. But knowing that end goal meant that every decision that I made, every chord, every melody line, whether, you know, should it go up here? Should it go down? Should it have some harmonization? All of that was based on my goal of what is going to sound the most like lo-fi on a piano, as well as be really relaxing to listen to. When you're working on a project, just keep that in mind. It does make it easier because you can let go of certain things. It's a lot easier to start working on it and get through the project when you're not trying to focus on everything, but again, bringing it down to what is the ultimate goal at the end of it. Escape into the moodscape of Snow Fairies Under the Moonlight. If you want it to become part of your stress relief, like me, there's a few songs that when I'm stressed, I play them. This happens to be one of them. You can get your studio licensed copy at the unfinished lesson, or you can also watch the next video and be able to just hear the music. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite part of this story behind the song?